Dear professors, could you hear me actually? Okay. Professors, Richard and the patient from Azerbaijan University Economics. Today, a great pleasure to welcome power in science and their integration and math research and regional development public union and also International Center for Graduate Education. So today in the temporary, basically we know that in today's globalized world, we know that the women constitute 30% of the researchers in the world. Unfortunately, 30 of the women are mainly being actively involved in the career and also the academic science sector. So I don't think that this coming mainly from the different kind of problems, just stemming from the cultural biases, gender stereotypes, age factors, class ceiling procedures in the academia as well, and also some kind of administrative places and the well. So now I would like to welcome all of our valuable guests from different COVID Nejla Ayvazi from ADA University Azerbaijan and also College of Greetings from Azerbaijan State University of Economics, especially Land of Flames Azerbaijan, and they provide valuable insights regarding the women empowerment problems in the maybe in the case of Hungary and also the Europe. The turn is yours, please.
Thank you very much. I also welcome everyone. My name is Silvia Kovács. I live and work in Hungary, and I'm an assistant teacher at the University of Dunaújváros. I'm a sociologist and economist, and actually I started to deal with women empowerment in science issues when I started my career, and I experienced several gaps as well. So I joined to an NGO as well, also to protect my kind of rights, get or ask some helps. And also I started to do some research as well as a scientist in the field. So hereby, I would like to talk about STEAM type of career lines. And mainly, I'm focusing on primary, secondary school age and issues, how to support girls to turn into an empowered scientist career in the field. And I would like to show some frameworks to the European Union issues and also some specialties towards Hungary and some cases, projects that help in this empowering process. So I'm sharing my screen. Just a moment. Yeah, here we are. Can you see my slides? Could you please give me a feedback? Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, STEAM landscape of women in Hungary. That is the topic from my side. I would like to start with some issues concerning gender gap profile, because this mainly refer to the statistical disparities between men and women, and mainly we work with labor market statistics, gender pay gap, employment and unemployment issues. Then I will turn a little bit to the STEM landscape, regional based in the European Union, and asking, of course, the question, the main issue of our session, like how changes could be made. I will propose and introduce several cases by an NGO that is working in Hungary, and then I do some pastel analysis because of the current situation, challenges which we have to face with at the moment in this field. So if we work with gender gap issues, I think generally we can say that in the European Union, um, the gender pay gap stands at 13% as an average. Hungary, which is also highlighted here in the order, has like a little bit more than 17 percentages concerning the average less per hour paid for women compared to men. Uh, it's like a well-known kind of statistic and perspective. What is, I think, is more important than is the reasons behind. So why and what kind of factors influencing this gender gap? We can say one reason, the sectoral segregation, because around 24 percentage of the gender gap, the pay gap is related to over-representation of women in relative low paying sectors, such as like healthcare, education. Other reason for this lack is the unequal share, for example, of paid and unpaid work, because still women have more working hours per week than men, and they spend more hours on unpaid work as well. Of course, the glass ceiling also exist here. Around 23 percentage is how much lower earnings goes for women than for men as an average in EU manager level. And also, however, there is concrete principles against the pay discrimination. It still exists. So these are like several issues. Also, the job experience, the employment contracts, the residual issue, which are all factors which at the end cause this decomposition of gender pay gap in the EU. The other slide and the map here I would like to show is the proportion of women scientists and engineers in the EU, and the dark blue parts where this proportion is the lowest. Here you can see Hungary, and it's one half of the country actually. The western part is belonging to this lowest proportion for women scientists and engineers. What is very interesting here that Middle Hungary, also the capital region and its agglomeration, is economically the most developed in the country. But contrary, it still has like low proportion in this perspective. So with these highlights, very short intros, we reached the problematic to how to change these disparities. Of course, there are very huge and wide literature and research about how to get girls interested in science and engineering, how to create environments that support women in this field, and how to counteract the biases. I would like to give one concrete example through an NGO. In Hungarian, it is called the Association of Hungarian Women in Sciences, Nők a Tudományban Egyesület, which was found in 2012. And in its mission, it was written that it works to ensure equal opportunities for all. And the goal is to achieve the vision of modern, enlightened, innovative ecosystem for the current Y generation by 2020. So they had like 8 years to reach that, and I made a kind of retrospective longitudinal research based on their activities, projects, actions. What could they reach? With a design communication method, I draw this kind of landscape, the STEM landscape, about their activities, where all participants' concepts, ideas are summed up, and some relations also showed here. Of course, we know how important the family behind these students and girls. On the other hand, of course, also it's a matter of the region, the industry, the designers and trainers, general education in general, and other factors which can help in this empowering. I picked up a concrete example. The project name is I Planet Smart Future for Girls, and it was done several years ago in Fayette County, also where my university is located. The goal of this program was to discover how this area supports or what kind of barriers exists there for girls to start their STEM career or already in the early years of primary and secondary school. Of course, what is important here that at the age of 11 years, when the STEM orientations begin to blossom, and unfortunately, there is the age of around 15 years when these interests wither away. The reasons are diverse. For example, the issues of natural sciences courses and the teaching methods as well. Of course, the family encouragement or the lack of it behind the students as well. And of course, there is also a gap, like how physics teachers can apply the knowledge, but maybe they lack the practical examples, how those knowledge could be used in industry as well. So teachers, students, representative of industrial companies, also professionals, female professionals were invited to talk and also to make research to find kind of solutions and also discover these gaps which exist here. What is also kind of important here, that if we look another project, and this is the syndicator, who are like role models for young generations, and there is an award for junior researchers who, like already based on social media channels, introduce their research and communicate like scientifically in a well understand manner they work, how they can reach and grab as well with certain topics the young generation. We can see here the different participants, like how designers already, science communicators, trainers, and also users, audience are part of this communication and projects to disseminate not just the research results, but also the persons, people who are entertaining and understandably present scientific ideas and researches. Of course, based on like network communication and society as well, then these are spreading and could give role models and empowering as well for other generations too. What is at the moment in Hungary issues concerning women empowerment in a scientific field are diverse. I made like a short pastel analysis about. On one hand, from political point of view, there is a huge financial support for having children and starting home. uh, for marriage couples, including, of course, women. On the other hand, of course, it shows huge challenges too on women's side, how to parallelly work and maintain childcare, meanwhile also continuing their career as well. Another issue is the centralization of education and research system, which is ongoing as well in Hungary, with a shift from state universities, for example, to private and foundation-led universities issues, which means new challenges as well, and maybe different controls on the research field and perspectives as well. From economic point of view, of course, there is an accelerating movement to the employment of women, also with tax discounts, for example, and like providing infrastructure for childcare. On the other hand, as it's a global issue, could be as well, we kind of witnessing the stagnation of GDP growth and geo-economic confrontation around us as well. A huge problem also the teacher shortage, not just in numbers, but also concerning their budget and payment issues. There are ongoing protests, for example, at the moment as well, because of this, and new regulations concerning the legislation and status. From social perspective, of course, aging and population decline also occurs in Hungary, and the immigration of intellectual and workers still exists to leave the country. And also a kind of challenge is the strengthening of social and political economic polarization. If we go to the technological issues, we can say Hungary is in the last third in the EU rows with the Digital Economy and Society Index. However, the automotive industry and e-mobility is very important concerning GDP ratio as well. So this is a research field which is highly supported, as well as nuclear power and energy sphere as well. Of course, the spillover effects and startup programs also very popular. And there are some unicorns as well, examples concerning IT ideas and firms who could go and grow to global, but still these programs need support, and in there also women as well. With the environmental issues, because of the connection of automotive industry with mobility, also battery factory are settling in the country, but there are again protests against them. Of course, these issues also highly in focus for researchers concerning the environmental impacts, and agriculture and water and waste management as also some research field where needs the STEM-oriented careers and interested women as well. From legal perspective, the EU has a rule of law mechanism against Hungarian government at the moment, which also means progression and cutback in different budgets. So it's financially also challenging. Of course, there are also some other cases concerning political settings and governmental perspectives with corruption cases. And if we talk about women, then we can't forget issues concerning childcare and early decisions on having children, and the law also tightening of abortion. So these are current issues which we face. I introduced some examples which can deal in the early career and educational phase for girls and women to step on the STEAM career and path. And hopefully we will have like a great discussion together to share ideas and informations how we can like overcome and a little bit understand more and reach some solutions concerning these biases. So thank you very much for
Thank you.
your
Thank you,
attention.
Sylvia. It's a great presentation that we got really insightful information about the women empowerment in science in the case of the EU and also Hungary. Just one question, just a little bit interesting for me that what kind of like the initiative and also the reforms that Hungarian government take to empower and to engage more women in science, and what kind of measures you are taking? Just a brief, the answer to my questions on this case.
Yeah. Um, at the moment in the high education, there is actually overrepresentation of women, but of course they mainly go to those scientific fields which are less oriented to natural sciences and STEAM. This is like one issue. There aren't quotas exist at the moment in Hungary, but when we go further from higher education already to like doctoral schools or as the top management of scientific organization, we see less and less women in the management ratio. So it's a leaking pipeline, let's say. There is like discussion and debate about it. And of course, there are representative, like female representatives as well, but still not enough. Um, what programs now we have? There will be a huge financial support for doctoral programs now
Mhm.
in Hungary as well. There are also awards and fellowships, how like immigrated scholars and professionals could be invited back and settle in Hungary. And of course, they build like a node or research center around them, which can help in this case as well. And pretty much not just for scientists, but tax discounts help for women at the moment. So, for example, if a woman has like 4 children, there is no taxation for them. Of course, it's very rare
Interesting.
for
Yes.
researchers and scientific field to have like 4 children. On the other hand, generally, it's much help, for example, from the government side to have these financial issues. And for example, during university or higher educational uh, periods, there is also help concerning tax discounts for women. So these are some short insights about some supports and challenges as well. We can't hear you, Nargis. Should I continue with the examples, or maybe some other colleague will start her presentation?
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for the information you provided here. And the next guest panelist is Dr. Adam Yakushevich. Kazimierski, welcome. Yes.
Oh, it's difficult to hear. Should I start?
Yes, our moderator said, please start the
Okay.
presentation.
I'm trying to share.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And the next turn is Dr. Adam Yakushevich.
As I understood, I think Adam Jakuzewicz can start the presentation.
Yes, I could hear. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see my presentation?
From my side, not yet.
Not yet. What shall I do? Again. If you can see, please tell me. Share screen. Again. And now, can you see?
No.
Oh, what shall I do? My browser have blocked my screen. Click the screen icon in your address bar to allow access. Ooh. It won't work. I don't know. Może coś nacisnąłem. Może wyjść i wejść. Screen icon. Weź wyjdź i wejdź jeszcze raz. No chyba, tylko że nie wejdę, bo nie mam maila otwartego.
O, zablokowany. Dlaczego? Teraz mówię, czekaj. Screen. Teraz. PowerPoint.
Oh.
Teraz.
Yeah. Now should be seen, yes?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for this for waiting. I'm sorry for this interruption. Well, I'm going to tell you about some legal developments as far as empowerment of women in Poland, some attempts, but you know, the law is quite narrow. I mean that people expect too much from law, and of course the approach should be more interdisciplinary, more intersectionally, to include not only legal measures but also educational, as my predecessor speakers, Professor Sylwia told. And as we know, the reasons for disadvantaged position of women in the labor market are different, are interrelational, are multifaceted, and they are known, as far as Poland is concerned, in technical universities or in natural science universities, there are only 34% of women. And in social sciences at universities like teaching or medical schools, there are 75% of female students nowadays. I'm making reference to this segregation, horizontal segregation, what has been already said, that women are represented in less paid jobs. And in my opinion, law will not change it. And of course, the other question arises, to what extent this situation is caused by social modeling and stereotypes, and to what extent it's just natural proclivity or propensity of women towards human relations, towards working with people. Yeah, it's culture or nature, the old question. I think we don't have a conclusive solution. But coming back to law, There are huge axiological constitutional arguments in favor of empowerment of women, uh, not only principle of equality, but also the constitutional obligation on public authorities to contribute to adopt measures towards aimed at productivity and high productivity. There's a vast research which shows that empowering women considerably increases economic productivity. And of course, the systemic rule of social market economy. That economy in Poland under Polish constitution shouldn't be just market economy, but also social market economy, which means that the government should intervene into market uh, economy and try to achieve desirable results. Uh, for example, for example, in Poland, we have huge support for families. I mean that there's 41-week parental leave, which can be used until the child achieves 6 years. Uh, 41 week of parental leave. It may be shared by a father or by a mother, and at least 9 weeks of this parental leave should be used by the father of the child. So this is, I think, a huge reform. But in practice, who will take this leave? Of course, a person who earns less, and in many cases is a woman, right? So this measure has a limited value. Anyway, we had a bill of law from 2029. The purpose of this law was to increase pay transparency, that employers with more than 20 employees were supposed to be obliged to publish the salaries and to publish the pay gap between men and women. But this bill got stuck in the parliament, so it wasn't adopted in the end. But nowadays, we have a very recent directive of the European Union, the EU Transparency Directive, and this directive will, enforce the governments to adopt legal measures on pay transparency. And the European Union directive provides for two categories of measures. Measures aimed at ensuring pay transparency for employees and employers, and measures which are designed to facilitate access to justice. And the first category of measures include the duty to publish uh, the pay gap, but this duty refers only to bigger companies. Bigger companies. The other duty is the other right of an employee is that he or she shouldn't be asked about the history of his or her earnings, and access to information is important. I mean that every employee will have a right to get information about earnings or salaries or remuneration of a comparator. But there is a tension between right to privacy, the privacy of the salary, and the right to information. Because if someone is discriminated against And if someone wants to make a claim to court, of course, I have to know in the first place that I am underpaid. So uh, the primary step is to get the information that I am underpaid. Because if I don't have information, how can I make my claim probable? Yeah, that I was discriminated against. Uh, this is very interesting because if an employee has a right or will have a right to get information about salaries of a comparator, not by name, anonymized information. Nevertheless, it will break the taboo of earnings. So I think that this law will have some influence on changing culture, on changing attitudes towards privacy. And we also have some measures which should facilitate access to justice. Uh, the measure is the claim for compensation if someone has been underpaid. It is important that it includes also premiums and additional bonuses because, as we know, women are not ready to work extra hours so much than men. They occupy lower positions. So many bonuses in bigger companies are available only for men, unfortunately. So in this respect, it is important that this claim for compensation will include also bonuses. And well, arguments in favor of these measures are access to information, as I've said. And if employers will monitor and audit the pay gap, the employers will have the possibility to adopt some corrective measures, to adopt some remedies. As far as arguments against, they are weak. The literature shows that the employers complain that monitoring pay gap and publishing information about pay gap, that it generates administrative costs and compliance costs, of course, but these costs are not so very high. It's less than 1,000 euro per company per year. So I think that this argument is overstated. On the other hand, the government may help companies to comply with publishing requirement. The government may make available some digital tools, some uh, wage calculators and so on, applications which are already available in Poland too, but they are optional to use. Uh, the most serious argument is this tension between privacy and privacy of earnings and the rights to information about earnings about the comparator. Because just imagine if we have a small company and a woman wants to know whether she's underpaid or not. Of course, her job should be compared to his maybe female colleague. But if there's only one or two male colleagues who uh, carry out the same job, then if we inform her about the salary, uh, she will know how much his male colleague earns. So especially in small company, there's a tension between uh, uh, rights to privacy and right to information. And to finish, I want to outline the amendment to the labor code, which came in force in April this year. It's about flexibilization of work or institutionalization of remote job. Of course, it is the aftermath of pandemic, but women organizations and women in general are in favor of remote work much than men. There's a lot of surveys in Poland on the topic, and women are more in favor. And even the government that introduced this law argued that it will help to reconcile family responsibilities and job. And as you can see, this remote job may be agreed on the conclusion of the contract. It is very flexible. You may agree with your employer that you will work, for example, 3 days at work and 2 days remotely. There's another option, occasional uh, remote job in emergency case. And normally, remote job should be agreed. So the employee uh, cannot unilaterally decide to work remotely. But in some situations, the employer should agree or should uh, award remote job. When a woman is pregnant, when there is a need to take care of a handicapped family member, for example. So this these provisions show that the intention of the lawgiver was to help, well, women in in uh, combining or reconciling work and family responsibilities. Uh, the last information in Poland, as you can see, 24% of women and 17% of men at working age are not economically active. And as you can see, 12%, more than 12% of economic inactivity of women is caused by family responsibilities and care responsibilities. And only 1 in 10 economically inactive persons, I mean men, are don't work because of family responsibilities. And to conclude, uh, the legal measures are limited because I think that the law will not change culture. That remote job, well, maybe will help women to combine job and family responsibilities, but it will not change stereotypes. And the same uh, pay transparency measures are limited too. They help to reduce the gap, the pay gap, but only around 13%. So it's just an ancillary measure or additional measure. So it will help, but uh, only in limited way. So thank you very much, yeah, for your attention.
Thank you so much, Adam, for your interesting presentation. We do really appreciate it that you provide your own insight in the example of the woman empowerment, especially in Poland in the labor market. Thank you so much. So the next one is Aysel Musayeva Gurbanova from Azerbaijan State University Economics, UNEC.
Yes, thank you, dear Nargis Hajeba. So I now just try to share my screen. Okay. I hope it will be seen by your side as soon as. Okay. Is it see you by your side? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm
thank you.
just sharing the video. Okay. Yes, I will just talking about for this straightful with the women empowerment in the science, and I will link into what they have the proving their integration to the labor market. Yes, especially there's some of strategic ways to the support women in the science. What we have need to the following some of the understanding the basically theoretical issues about the woman role in science. Yes, some of the developments, which is Massachusetts Institute of Technology, have to prove it what the women have a role in the science with this device actually. So The firstly, yes, even if this so basically it means that to us, but effective listening to the women, especially is some of the proven technical ways for understanding, interrupting, then believing they're responding to what they have to be in the side actually, because the scientific and personal experience of the woman in science also need to understanding and analyzing the gender diversity and equity in the science, because women and the men role in the science need to analyze it, some of the experience within responding to the some of scientific researchers and the surveys actually. Yes, to be an active the bystander for a woman into the society, because in society and the woman role in science and also in other type of the workplaces need to generalize it to the increase it to eliminating and to interrupting some of the women the harassment in this society, because some of the we have the witnesses that aggressively questions, aggressively reaction to the woman in the conferences, even if the workplaces they have the meet with unknown reasons within the hypothetical examples. Yes, generally we have seen that an active bystander on the male in the conferences and workplaces, they're unfortunately interrupted by the questioners within the unknowing the ways what they have answering the questions for women the questions, and sometimes is a holding the visible and comfortable for woman role in a scientific conferences, in the presentations, even if it's small things for stressful of the woman in role in the science, but we have to face it for central the most important problems in the society. Yes, women for regulate they are the personal the basis. Yes, what they have the personal basis. The women in science need to generalize this with respectful and equally qualified women students in universities, in the societies, and some different type of religious communities. The women that face it with gender differences, with equalities, inequalities. So it's need to step, take the step eliminating for color, more quantify them within recognize their skills, high type of the skills. So they need to do counting their effectiveness and what they have needs to in the scientific sessions, panels, and committees. What they have need to the sharing role in the front of the men with equality of the persons. So gender balance needs to collaborate it in these issues for regarding experience and personal basis in society. And the man and the woman need to consulting their existing in the society with avoiding the bias. Yes, and especially is so critical the issues for women scientists is promoting their work in the society, and because they combating the always against the other type of the issues in the science like tech for promote women scientists in their work need to be signed for their scientific researchers and women authors to cite as a statistically what they have gets output of these the paper statics and survey statics, because more relevant we see that for authors and article states mostly have the dividing out by the men in the side of the woman actually overlooked in the papers by them. So planning and department focus even if the gender balance for invited speakers for women, even if equal representation need to analyze what they have adequately present for women in organizing in type of the scientific the panels and keynote speakers. We have seen that for political the persons and they have the giving the speech in the front of the big the community, because they need to get some of the advising and some of the campaign in for delegates for president campaign. We have seen mostly as advisors woman role in this campaign, so it's mostly and probably need to understanding what they have the role in this type of critical politicization the process. So yes, incentive and supportive inclusion efforts need to rewarding the woman, even if the ignoring the some of the diversity equipments of diversity participation in the type of the efforts, because some of the advisors in the sciences advisors needs to understanding what they have the combating the influence of the advocate for women and representative the groups, and especially United States has a in the world the system has a first step taken by for STEAM. What they have the STEAM, they have just tried to collaborate it of institutional efforts for women, and just try to get given some of the outputs for women what they have a role in society with rewarding and what they have exactly give efforts to the society. So these statics need to collaborate it in the one system as officially in the world the history that taking the first step by United States actually. So as most known and unfortunately not giving the big opportunities by the men to women, hiring the woman for nominating awards for the leadership position. What I'm saying that because there such as some of the policies including exploitation of women for awards and supporting existence efforts. Yes, what we have needs hiring the woman for awards and a leadership position, because the promoting diversity in the sciences needs to understanding the kinds of efforts, large and small, even if it doesn't matter, because these changes need to observative and expressible the things, what they have own attitudes to get these awards and nomination for leadership positions. Yes, and for linking with labor market women integration, we need to understanding that especially the Sweden is comes toward and after following the Switzerland for European country for women the work, we have needs to get statistically indicators 300 points, 241.4 points out of the possible for women integration to labor market for the Western European women. I mean that. While Finland and Norway and Turkey is mostly understandable European country as a less work opportunities to give the women. And Slovenia, Romania, and Lithuania and are the 15 European countries for opportunities. In our country, for the located in the regional perspective, as I could say that if we have said that the previous years, 2022, the Azerbaijan has a link at 64% for women labor force participation as approved by officially, and also World Bank also disseminated this the participation as a official approved by themselves. And after following, we'll see that Armenia, 58 the percent of the women labor force participated by their society. So is it so interesting to Angola? What they have the share it is 75% as a maybe could be the circuit for a woman labor participation. Have to have the see that and observe it in this society. Yes, and Azerbaijan is extremely the successful for labor force participation as a approved for officially. And the sum of the key determinants as the general framework, we will see that religious, education in common law, fertility, absolutely, institutions, and basic of economic situations and political region war and conflicts have the big implications for women integration to labor market. Yes, as a summarizing what I'm understanding for women integration to labor market, economic freedom, self-determination, what we have see that own account workers within lowest the pay positions and salary in the communities. But unfortunately, some of the women need to face, unfortunately, in ways that face it vulnerable employment, because there's less likely work arrangements for different type of financial and political institutions, even if they had risk economical cycles for their poverty. So self-employment activities for women, it's according to the previous year's outputs, five of the persons for women absolutely working in vulnerable employment for high for both sexes, like world's poorest region, especially for South Asian countries, some of them, and African regions has a sharing these type of situations. So exactly, there is extremely clear segregation for women in this all of the sectors. Is like the low pay, long hours, and ethnic working arrangements. So in terms of numbers alone for women, the balance is strongly in favor of women. Unfortunately, because in many countries, family labor force is better educated than male labor force, and it at the same times need to get understanding what have that they sharing the tendency for educated women in the type of secondary levels and tertiary levels for unemployment issues than same education level. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope it was so fast summarizing, because I'm not taking any time of other participants. Thank you for sharing your ideas.
Thank you so much, Isaiah, for taking your time to have a presentation and to share your opinion and the standpoint with our expert and also with our professors, researchers, and the professionals. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And our final panelist is Nejla Ayvazi from College of Europe, Belgium, and from ADA University. Nejla, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So I will also share my presentation. I will speak more about the theoretical concept of women empowerment, and many points were already touched upon by the other speakers. Just a second. So while the presentation is uploading, I will briefly present myself. So currently, I just graduated from the College of Europe EU Political and Governance Studies. And this was I was provided by a scholarship by a European Union Neighborhood Policy Framework Scholarship. And also, I'm adjunct instructor of social sciences at a university. I teach leadership, ethics, and communication classes. I worked in international organizations, think tanks, and NGOs, embassies, and the private sector. And also have an MA in business economics from Vilnius University, Lithuania. And I completed a 2-year LM program, International European Law, also in Lithuania from the European Humanities University. And I graduated law from Baku State University. I will be speaking about what is women empowerment in brief, more in theory, main objectives of women empowerment, women entrepreneurship and its role in economic development, and how does the EU empower women in science, mainly through the Horizon Europe program. So women empowerment in brief. The discourse on women's empowerment has been gradually evolving over the last few decades. Such paradigm shifts have occurred from seeing women as mere recipients of welfare benefits to mainstreaming gender concerns and engaging them in the country's development process. The typical and enduring consideration that women have received from the state, so from the government or from other institutions, has been in their capacity as mothers and wives historically, but not as researchers and professionals, or to a lesser extent. Women therefore need to become their own advocates to address problems and situations affecting them that were previously ignored. And this starts not only from women empowerment in science, but also women empowerment in policy making and decision making. What are the common issues in the labor market for women? Is the weak bargaining power in the labor market, and large sections of women are in the low-paid informal sector, and this was already covered by the other speakers. So what are the main objectives of women empowerment? There are a lot, but the main three or four are that the first objective is to create a conducive social, cultural, economic, and political environment to enable women to enjoy de jure and de facto fundamental rights and realize their full potential. So this is more about speaking about the legal framework and how gender issues should be mainstreamed all over the policies. Mainstreaming gender in all around development processes, programs, projects, actions. So whenever there is some funding, the gender mainstreaming should be there. Transforming discriminatory societal attitudes and mindsets with community that stagnate women participation, elimination of all forms of violence against women through the strengthening of policies, legislations, programs, institutions, and community engagement. Empowerment provides greater access to knowledge and resources and creates greater autonomy in decisions, which is obvious. To break some of the barriers to empowerment, the work of three sets of actors will be needed. This is according to some research. The grassroots and feminist groups to do the outreach and work with marginalized women who need support. And the second group is women in development international institutions who can provide the funds necessary to create projects and programs with empowerment features. And the last one, women in academic circles who will contribute to a theoretical analysis of gender inequality issues and how they can be modified in societies. Women empowerment has been recognized as an important source of economic growth. Women entrepreneurs create new jobs for themselves and others, and also provide society with different solutions to management, organization, and business problems. However, they still represent a minority of all entrepreneurs. Women entrepreneurs often face gender-based barriers to starting and growing their businesses, like discriminatory property, matrimonial and inheritance laws, and or cultural practices, as well as lack of access to formal finance mechanisms, limited mobility, and access to information and networks. So as we see, there is a requirement for a holistic approach to women empowerment in all areas, but also in the area of science. So these issues are interrelated. Women empowerment in one area also influences the women empowered in other areas. And finally, I will briefly speak about the Horizon Europe. It's a European Union's key funding program for research and innovation with a budget of 95.5 billion euros. Of course, this majority of this funding goes to the EU member states, but also to the European neighborhood policy countries or the Eastern Partnership countries, of which, for example, Azerbaijan is part of. And to provide information in one slide is very difficult, but what I wanted to mention is that there are national contact points, and there's a whole network of national contact points in the ministries in Azerbaijan, in also the Academy of Sciences. And it's the main structure to provide guidance, practical information, and assistance on all aspects of participation in this program that empowers women also in research and innovation, and provides grants for that. There is a specific link with that is on this slide where you can find, or you can just Google network of national NCPs Azerbaijan for Horizon Europe, and there the list of contact points will pop out. Usually joint info sessions are organized by the EU delegation, for example, with the Academy of Sciences, which doesn't happen that often. So it's better if you have a research or an idea that you want to develop in the area of STEM, for example, you can always contact this national contact points and receive information. So one of the aspects of women empowerment is also access to information, as it was briefly mentioned before. So that's it. That's my short presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nisha, so much. And it's great that you provide the information about the Horizon Europe, because some of the Azerbaijani women actually have a lack of access. And I think that we should need to raise awareness in these cases, especially to get benefit from the Horizon Europe, any kind of international project, international research state programs, and also the fellowship program. This is, I think, that one of the key problems that Azerbaijan is facing today. But I'm not sure about the other country, but I got the valuable key case from the Hungary, also Poland cases as well. And actually, we do not have any kind of questions and comments. And first of all, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation for all of you for taking your time to join our sessions. Appreciate it, and hope the researchers and the professionals who are following up today are really enjoying the program. Thank you so much for taking your time. I'll get back to you with the certificate of appreciation soon. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.